Hey everybody, this is Cameron, the writer and director of Queen of Hearts, a Twin Peaks fan film. And today I am speaking with Benjamin Oliver, who is at this moment in time like a brother to me. He has actually been involved with the production of this film longer than anybody else besides myself that eventually were involved with the production. Um, I met him, I believe, roughly after the crowdfunding campaign was successful. I think you'd been watching the channel for a while, but when you heard about this film, you reached out to me and you said, "Hey, if you have any needs for like effects, let me know, and I love to work with you." And when we first started talking, I sent you the script. At that time, I don't know about you, but from my perspective, I really didn't think we were going to be needing as much effects work as we ended up doing in the film. So let's just start from
Yeah.
there. One, why did you want to be a part of this film from the get-go?
Well, I wanted to play in the world of David Lynch, especially after seeing season 3. I felt like a lot of the visuals and a lot of the like the story pieces and like the Black Lodge and some of the like, especially in that first 4-hour night we all had with like Nido in that room and with like all those cuts and stuff. I was like,
Right.
this is really fascinating, interesting aesthetic to put into Twin Peaks, which we hadn't seen before.
Right.
And then, not being a part of the inner circle of the actual Twin Peaks world, when I heard about your film, I'd been watching your channel almost since I think probably that first big 4-hour night. Like, I remember I'm on the East Coast, so it finished here around like 3:00 in the morning. And I couldn't fall asleep after that. So other than watching it back over, I remember jumping on YouTube and being like, is anyone talking about this? And that's when I first found your podcast. And yeah, it was just, once we all went through season 3, and then after really following your podcast and listening to your videos and stuff, hearing that you had this idea for this film that you've had from high school and that you could still adapt it with all the expanses to the universe, I was interested in that.
So you get the script, and I remember us having a long conversation about it. But for the viewers who obviously weren't there, what was your initial response to the script? Because I'm thinking in your head, you're hearing fan film, and yes, you've been following my channel, but I get the feeling like, you hear the words fan film, you're going in with one idea, like what this could be. When did you realize that this was going to be much different than what a fan film typically is?
So, like, honestly, reading the script, especially for something that's a fan film, my expectations are in a certain place. And in my brain, I'm kind of like, before I started reading it, I was like, well, this will be cool. Like, I'll have some Twin Peaks visuals on my reel and a couple bits that will, look really cool. I'll get something out of that for myself because it'll be fun no matter what. But as far, it's really hard to make something that I feel like could really live in that world or live aside, be part of that world. And I remember my son was a lot younger back then.
Right. This is 2018.
Yeah. And, I started reading it on my iPad one night, and, I would read and wait for him to fall asleep. And then my wife comes in like 3 hours later and she's like, why are you still in here? I was like, oh, I've started reading the script and it's really good. Like, this feels like something that I would want to see. And it feels, in my mind at least, like really, really well thought out, and like it would be part of the universe as it came across. Like, there was no, like, having gone to film school, I've worked on a number of films that oh, we don't know what to do, put a monkey sound in the background, or like, oh, entrances and exits, like characters just walk in, say their thing, and then leave. It's like, oh, cool, like we're not even doing that. Like this is getting to the heart of what at least to me, like Twin Peaks is as far as a world, because it is like a canvas to tell your stories as much as it is about the show we've all watched. Like, and I've always wondered that too. That was in my as an editor or video editor, like wanting to make films, but especially like piece them together. You can learn a lot by actually going through it, and it's like, oh, cool. Like I can kind of see where, at least from my vantage point, like Lynch really created a canvas to tell stories on that could be almost about anything, and you can take advantage of those in so many interesting ways. And it was just, your script also set that up. I feel like to be able to do that, and
it even sets itself up where people could make fan films based on the universe that's in Queen of Hearts. I mean, for instance, Annie's in the chair for years and years. Well, she's physically there, but her mind is somewhere else doing things for the White Lodge. Where is she going? What is she doing? I mean, you could tell infinite stories just about that.
The world is so huge. I mean, parts of it almost take place in characters' minds, or could. So you could tell entire stories that take place in someone's reality inside of their mind, and it would all fit, and there's a good way of doing that. And then there's like, what's it, like the end of Roseanne, where like you find out it's been a dream the whole time. Well, and then they got rid of that. And
that's always been a cop-out ending anyway.
But without it going like that, like, it's such a cool universe to live in. And
well, that was the thing. It was like, I mean, for legal reasons, we're calling it a fan film because that's ultimately what it is. That being said, it was not conceived as a fan film, which is why I feel like it feels so lived in the universe, because it was always meant to be something for me. If I was ever in the position, which I never was, but if I was ever in the position in 1996, whatever, to like pitch something to Mark Frost and David Lynch, I wanted to have something that was. Now, obviously, we didn't have the season 3 aspects put into it, but I always knew I wanted to tell the story of Annie Blackburn and cross-cut that with the Caroline Wyndham Earle story. That was always from the start what I wanted to do. Then when season 3 came in and then the books came in, I was like, cool, well, yeah, I can fit this in here and this. And actually, especially with the Tulpa idea, they actually it made my story easier.
Yeah.
Because like I've said before, Mark Frost in his book, The Final Dossier, has Annie in the hospital for many, many years. But with the creation of the Tulpa in season 3, great. I was able to do a switch out where we could stay in continuity with Mark Frost's book, but also have Annie leave the hospital, which I always needed her to do for my story. So it was great because it wasn't like, because usually with fan films, you kind of salad bar the continuity. I'll take this, but I'll forget about this. This was, you can watch all 3 seasons and the movie and the missing pieces, and this is all going to work together as a whole. Something I'm incredibly proud of. So you get the script, you like it, and then begins the long pre-production of the film. It takes a while to get it going. You stay involved the entire time. Obviously, you're not really. I just said, just start working on getting ideas of like how we're going to do some of this stuff.
And some of those bits ended up like there's like a crazy not vortex type of thing, but like this like montage of like grungy stuff that starts moving around and stuff. And there's that part in part 8 when like Lynch cut in like his student film that didn't get developed properly, and it was all scratchy and cutty, and I was like, oh, awesome, like I can spend an afternoon messing with this. And
so you had a lot of
really cool.
You had a lot of time, basically.
Yeah.
And the idea for that, it was, it's kind of like that line in the Wizard of Oz film that obviously Lynch loves about, we must be inside the cyclone, right? So like when Annie is taken to the White Lodge, there's that moment where you're inside, which I really enjoy. So, we get the film going. At this point, you're going to help with post-production, so you're not really involved with the day-to-day production. when you started seeing though the footage, and I was like, and I don't know, when was did you see early footage, or was it
Yeah.
not until the trailer came
Every
that you?
now and then you would send me like either stills
Okay.
or little bits. Sometimes you'd be editing sequences and you'd play it back in your computer and record it
Right.
with your phone and send it to me, and I could give you like, little bits of feedback and
Well,
stuff like that.
what was your reaction to seeing the stills and some of the edited stuff coming your way? Obviously, you're getting ready to help me with the effects here. Are you getting more excited by what you're seeing? Or are you going, "Oh my God, like this is actually gonna work?" Or
as
like,
as a kid who was like not a good baseball player, so when those moments happened when you're a kid and you're like, oh, let me in, like I can probably get on base. I don't know if I'll hit a home run, but I can get on base. It was what I imagined that feeling would have been like if like I had that, like I could probably go in and hit a ground ball and get on base and help the team out. So it was like that. It was like, oh wow, like this is really, coming together is kind of how I felt a lot. Like I can see how these, because it's a huge story.
it doesn't. It honestly didn't feel that way when I look at the script, because
Yeah,
it's like there's like Annie in the hospital, or we're at Wyndham and Caroline's house. It just, there's a few things here and there, but I felt like, well, we have like basically two big locations. But when I was editing it together, obviously you start to realize how big this story was, and I didn't quite realize that until I was putting it together. Like, wow. I mean, obviously you have to have those Twin Peaks pauses and that kind of stuff, right? So that right there is going to lengthen your
yeah.
story. I mean, heck, it took season 3 from 9 episodes to 18 episodes, right? Um, anyway, so I was really excited by the way it was coming together, and we started talking about this and that. But originally, I can't remember, but I remember originally we weren't thinking it was going to be as much effects work as it ended up being, because we assumed, like Maddie and I assumed, we would be able to find like red drapes for the Black
Right.
Lodge, right? We ended up not being able to find red velvet drapes, which is so crazy to me because so many playhouses I've been to have red velvet
Right.
drapes. We couldn't find any, none to rent, anything. So we ended up doing black and gray drapes, and then you coming in and colorizing them to be that red velvet, which looks absolutely stunning. Of course, there were a little few hiccups along the way, but we'll get to that in terms of like, in terms of like getting around Annie's hair and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like I'd say that there's like two main effects. There's like the cleanup and processing of stuff, and then there's like the super creative stuff, and stuff we did in the, I don't even know if it's technically the White Lodge, but in the Giants movie theater,
right?
Like that stuff was so much fun. And then the Black Lodge stuff was arduous, but also so gratifying because
it was coming out good.
It looks really good, and it was also great too because it looks a little different in every iteration of Twin Peaks. Like there's, if you have this like stark like red and white floor idea, if you go back and watch the early episode, like episode 3, it's yellow it's yellowish white for the floor. And I've read a whole thing about it, like, and tried to research some of those things, that like it's hard to color balance the lights for television. Well, they shot the series on film, but like red is what in the late 80s was so difficult to pull off on video.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have a white and red contrast would only like buzz out your TV even more. And then, with film stocks, and all those different things, like how to pull off something like that was actually really difficult. So if you contrast like episode 3 Black Lodge or Waiting Room with The Return, it's two completely different looks,
Oh, absolutely. And then in terms of like the Double R Diner, like we weren't planning on doing a whole background change for that. So that ended up being another huge thing that ended up taking months to do, which I humbly thank you for doing, because it was just, honestly, it was just like, well, could we do this? Because originally we were going to shoot at one diner and that ended up not working out. And then we're going to shoot another diner that ended up not working out. We ended up having this little cafe, and it was like, well, based on the shot choices, I guess we could make it work. but then when Maya brought up this thing, well, I have this complete 3D background, and I was like, Ben, could we try a couple shots just to see what it's like? Because we needed to do it at least for the behind Cooper's.
Yeah.
So I was like, could we try it for the bar? And you're like, yeah, let's try it, because you're a very optimistic person. And you sent me some test shots, and I was like, oh my God, these look great. And you're like, oh yeah, this is this. But it wasn't like, if we knew we were going to do this, we would have just green screened the whole thing. But we didn't. So you literally had to cut out every single person, put them on these backgrounds, and it's just wild. The fact that I sent it to Maya, and she's like, oh my God, that looks incredible.
Because I feel like it almost becomes like it's like a weird mixture of like new and then like the nostalgia,
right?
And then the way you ended up presenting that stuff in the film becomes then like something else when you have it on the screen there with the giant looking at portions of it and all those things. Like, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like, that's the type of world that you can tell your stories in this universe, because you can find a way to have it work out and help tell the story even better than.
Well, this is something that you and I talked about a lot. It was like, okay, a lot of these things that we were doing, again, we understand, right? This is quote unquote fan film, but we still made a 4-hour film that takes place in the Twin Peaks universe. And one thing you quickly realize is how much creativity goes into this, because it's like you could tell, we knew that at any moment, if we needed to get out of a jam, and we didn't do this, but we knew, always knew that if we needed to get out of a jam, we could put in static effects, we could do a shot of blackness or darkness or whatever. There was and became apparent that is what Lynch always has up his sleeve. It's like, we're gonna try this. We're gonna make it happen. If it doesn't, we've set up such a universe that we can do anything. We can cut to a shot of a monkey. We could do it, and people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, what's the significance of this?" Right?
Right.
And so it's like there is obviously rhyme and reason. I do believe there's rhyme and reason, but as a creative person looking at what Lynch and Frost did with that initial material, they create a world so vast that literally you could do anything. I remember talking with Maddie saying, yeah, if this doesn't work, we could always do this in black and white. That wasn't the intention, and we didn't do that. But it was just like, we could, and it would make sense in show logic.
Yep.
All right, so let's go through some of the effects.
We could take a look at. So this I thought was cool, even though it's obviously like super basic.
Well, again, this wasn't even meant to be in the film. This was because Maddie gave me the song, and I said, if we do an overture, can we have it be in the font that the old TV guide used to show Twin Peaks as?
So that was like super fun, looking at like that old material and stuff like that, and going into Photoshop and really piecing stuff together.
Right.
Like stuff like this. I think you ended up doing the color correction on this.
I did do the day for night here.
Yeah, it was filmed during the day.
Well, at dusk. But
at dusk, yeah. But it,
I wanted it to be at dusk so that it was starting to get dark, but we still had the light there.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, out of all the effects that people ask me about, they always say, where and how did you do those Twin Peaks opening titles? We've been looking for those fonts forever.
So I believe it's Franklin Gothic, the font. Okay.
But in terms of the colorization and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple of let me just go back, and my computer's being... Yeah, like they're really interesting credits. I've always thought they were kind of odd looking.
Right.
In a cool way, like green and a weird brown, mixed together.
Right.
And yeah, like and I always love this too, where...
Well, that's the Fire Walk With Me font.
Yeah, but you're mixing both, which looks cool.
Right.
But yeah, like they have... I mean, I went frame by frame through, episodes of Twin Peaks and Fire Walk With Me to just see how they like lay out the fonts and like
Right.
whether they have like you could see that there's a bit of like drop shadow on them, and really how thick like the stroke for this dark green or light green and that brown color. A lot of that stuff was just color picked from the newer episodes, because those were
and let me tell you something. When you put this music to this font, there's so many people who have written to me saying like they start crying at this moment because they feel like they're watching a continuation of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, obviously this was actually an effects shot that we did to get the
right. So this is go back to that diner shot real quick. Yeah. So anyway, the diner shot, I actually took a still photograph of the diner in 2013. My wife and I ended up going up there as a trip. Took a photograph from this angle, and of course, with digital technology the way it is now, right there, cut it. We added movement to the shot to make it look a little bit handheldish. And then I thought, well, it just can't. Even though we're dealing with Annie, we're dealing with Norma, and all that stuff. It can't just be just a random shot of the diner.
Right.
Like how random would that be? And because of the windows, I said, Ben, would it be possible? This is how our conversations always began. Would it be possible if we could have the ambulance go by the windows, because that would connect it to the opening credits and Andy going to the hospital? And he says, yeah, let me try it. We did I probably about 25 versions of it. And it's not so much. It's not so much. It looked fine. It was about getting the right speed of the ambulance.
Which is interesting. The ambulance is actually, I have like literally from like a Halloween store, like light, that spins around like an ambulance light. And I just put it in my basement, filmed it with my iPhone so it's black with that. And then I color tinted it blue and red. And then, in Photoshop, just cut out each window and then just had it, move around, move through the window as a reflection.
So play it again.
Yeah.
Right,
and like that's how you end up with a photo that Cameron took in 2013 with images from my basement floor with a $2
and it ended up, and it had to be a photo from 2013 because we needed to get that cherry pie double R to go sign off the.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it fits. It just.
Well, that's one of the great things about Twin Peaks, because you can choose whether you want to do the most sophisticated of effects or the most low tech effects, and it's all going to work no matter what you choose to do.
Well, and it's also treating your effects stuff like footage. So just because we spent time iterating on that, you don't end up making it like a centerpiece of the scene, because then you're trying to call attention to it. Like, oh, look what we did. It's just like, oh, the ambulance goes by the Double R diner, just like it would in the universe.
Right.
So, not like making a bigger play out of it than what it really is, but it helps build the world around it.
Right.
You didn't necessarily have to have it go by. People would guess it is in Twin Peaks where that happened, but
it just helps.
One of those little.
It just ties it all together.
Yeah.
What do you think of the finished film now that we've gone through this whole thing and it's done?
I think I love it. Like, I have a few really good, Twin Peaks friends, and they've all enjoyed watching it and being like, oh my gosh, you got to, play in the Black Lodge and all that stuff. And
well, we wanted to do the Fire Walk with Me style credits. And I thought it'd be great to do Pittsburgh, but then to say, 5 years earlier that as a Twin Peaks fan, that would get me really excited. If something.
I don't know what's it about the look of this stuff in Fire Walk with Me, but it always.
And they used it in season 3 as well.
Yeah.
Whenever they said Buckhorn and all that, it was in this font. So we shot this. This was something.
Yes, this is one of the gray black sheets.
Right. Now this shot took you a long time because of the movement.
And it's handheld and.
Right. Well, we'll cut it back to it. Well, that was the one thing I really wanted in the Black Lodge sequences, was to have sort of a Scorsese, camera movements in this, because a lot of the Black Lodge stuff is just locked down cameras, which we ended up doing for the bulk of it. But when Annie starts running or when the doppelganger pulls her out of the Black Lodge at the beginning, I wanted to have sort of that steady cam movement type of thing. And actually, one of the camera shots I wanted to do, we weren't able to do just because of the location we had, which was I wanted to follow Annie from her back, walking down the hallway, moving the drapes, and then moving into the larger room in one continuous shot.
Which I don't think we ever see on the show.
No, and I wanted to do that, but based on the location we found, we couldn't do that. But originally, the idea was that we were going to do a long tracking shot, and she was going to move in. Anyway, it's fine. It doesn't bother me because we ended up making it work the way we did. So,
yeah. So basically, this was luckily in Adobe After Effects, they've created a tool called the Roto Automatic. It's like the Roto tool, which will do like frame by frame attempt to manually rotoscope out parts of shots. So really it just came down to like really learning how that tool works and
now originally
being as meticulous as you can be.
Now, originally you were going to replace the floor and you were like, that's never going to happen now.
So we would still be working on it, but
probably, which is fine. Cause, so the floor we were looking, cause I guess you can get like marble blocks of it, but we would have to go in and literally go in and like glue them down.
Yeah.
And that wasn't going to happen with the location we had. So we ended up getting just like huge rugs of it. Because we knew we were going to ADR the footsteps anyway, because it has to have that Black Lodge sound. So we didn't have to worry about that. Of course, trying to run on carpet and not fall down is going to be an issue. So occasionally, the camera is moving fast, so you don't really notice it. But when you have it framed, you can see the rug cuts and stuff like that. But
I think you mentioned to me at one point that in cutting in those foot sound effects, you notice that those are also reversed.
Yes, some of them are.
I just love, like there's always been something strange about those footsteps in the Black Lodge, and then it's like, oh, of course those would be reversed as well. So,
like when Firewalk Me, when Dale walks in through the curtains to talk to the little man, even the drape sound is reversed when he moves. Things like that. So basically, I'm sure having the camera locked off for a lot of these shots helped. Now, the reason why we went to strobe, we were always going to use strobe regardless. We ended up using a little bit more than we were expecting to, only because with the color change of the drapes, and you had to go around Maddie as Annie, that because of the little frizzes of the blonde hair, the top of her head sometimes was a little red. There's nothing we could do about that. But if you put it in the strobe light, obviously that takes away that. Of course, the strobe light in the Black Lodge makes sense. And again, that comes back to the discussion of how much is it, like Lynch probably said, I want strobe lights, but then maybe they use strobe lights a little bit more in a section because the lighting wasn't quite right, and that's where you start to realize, wow, they've opened up such a world here that you can pretty much throw in anything into whatever you want it to be and make it and adjust it.
Well, and they've done stuff like, remember we were talking about, in the middle of all this, like I was like, I'm pretty sure that they green screened in basically Jean Reno into that opening scene
in season
3, so that he's at the bar. And I was like, look at it, like he doesn't quite fit, like he's a little too in focus, he's color corrected kind of oddly. So I was wondering, like, why does he look like that? Like, and it's like, that's why they took that scene of him talking on the phone in like episode 13 or something, when the floor is being swept for 8 hours, and then they just took a bit of that and they're like, can we put him in the bar behind Balthazar Getty? And because it is more Twin Peaksy when you have a Renault serving drinks at the double R, or at the bar,
right?
So at the Roadhouse. So
we had some blood on his shirt, but I obviously wanted more of almost like a predator wound or something on the front. So I said, Ben, could we take what we had there and just kind of flesh it out? And we were going to be doing a strobe thing anyway, so it was basically like just kind of going within the strobes and with there were moments in there, and yeah, just
But like
little things
that
like that.
blood and stuff was like all, you know, amped up a bit
Right.
after the fact to just really sell the idea, obviously, that it's a major wound that Cooper had.
Right. Right.
And then one of the things that I find very interesting about that is, like, you know, when I go back and rewatch the show now, I can think of, like, I can see what that wound was like when he's talking about it, or he's, you know, when he gets his gun wound, but from Josie, like things like that, that like he's been hurt before and he's,
Right.
you know, dealt with these things, and
he got shot more or less in the same spot he got stabbed. You know? So it's like a double whammy here. And this, I just thought it'd be really cool, just because, you know, the electricity is in the air, was to go back to this, to these.
Well, like I also like from like a nerdy thing. Like I remember when I first started watching Twin Peaks, I would save up money, go get a VHS tape at Suncoast Video,
right,
bring it home, and they were like 6 episodes, and I was always like, I thought you could fit like 2 hours on a VHS tape at high quality, but they just wanted to fit as many as they could on a tape. And some of the tapes like just inherently had, you know, scrapes on them like this.
So like
also,
I said,
his performance here as Wyndham, this stuff is so awesome.
It's so good, right? And it's taken straight from the Cooper Diary.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to end it with the 3 of them, with Cooper holding.
So you can
Caroline.
see that blood there is, you know, digital blood we added in.
Right.
Which is hard. Like blood is one of those things that you think of as red.
It took a while. It took a while to get the right color.
Yeah. Like even like some effect, like real effects people I know who do, you know, practical effects, they all have their own recipe for making fake blood. And again, it's never just straight red food coloring or ketchup.
Oh, no. But I mean, we at least had a little bit of a template for you.
Yeah.
But, you know, because that's the thing, folks. It's like if you're going to enhance things digitally, like for instance, with like little Laura coming in with the light, we shot a light behind her that was bright, but not quite as bright as we needed. So then Ben could take that as an element and blow it up.
Yeah.
So
I love all this stuff. As a kid who went to Catholic high school, I found this stuff so awesome because I actually was in high school. I was a senior, and I nearly failed out of English class because I would go home and watch Twin Peaks all night on VHS. Right. And I was failing my senior year of English class, and the nun, Sister Emma Jean, I think, was like, "Why are you doing bad this year?" And I was like, "Oh, I found this show called Twin Peaks, and this was like 1998. It's like I can't stop watching it." And she's like, "Oh," she's like, "Why don't you write me some special like papers about what you think is going on in Twin Peaks, and we'll call it even." And then when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, this is so funny because it's coming full circle."
Well, this was in the script, but yeah.
But seeing it in real life was just.
Oh yeah, I mean, shooting the shot coming up right here of Annie getting up and the nuns there, and this actually freaked out a lot of people. They've told me, which is kind of surprising. I never really thought this was a haunting image, but I figured if Lynch brought angels into the Black Lodge and Fire Walk with Me, I can have Annie have some nuns in there.
Well, and you know, Annie was from a convent. Like the Black Lodge tends to amplify.
Each person has their own experience. It's not like, right? It's just not just like a free for all. Yes, I mean, things can intertwine, as we're going to see with Cooper and Caroline, but everyone has their own experience. I mean, Annie's just lucky she didn't meet her own doppelganger in here. So.
I can only imagine ideas if people want to continue things, I guess. But that idea is like fascinating to me.
Right. So then when she comes in, we cut back. I cut back to the strobes here, just because the hair.
Yeah, I feel like I strangely know her hair very well after frame by frame going through many minutes of footage.
Right. So this is not green screen at all, folks. This is all in a real location with real drapes, real floor. It's just that we needed to color correct the drapes. So.
And I love this like almost game show like
yes
moment here.
Well, at this point, Wyndham, I wanted to show the moment when Wyndham brought Annie in from the season 2 finale, because we see them step inside the Black Lodge, but we don't see them actually enter inside from the inside, I should say.
I also love, just like in my own brain, it's just like Wyndham Earl either becomes this crazed FBI agent who or he becomes like the host of Jeopardy eventually. Like those are equally almost the same ending. You know what I mean? Just like, but they aren't. But just like that path could have taken you one of two different ways.
Right. Now this, again, talk about creativity. She was always meant to stand there and then disappear. And then we started playing it around with the way Cooper disappears talking to the firemen at the start of season 3, where it's like triangle shapes and things like that. And then when she disappears and having the smoke just move throughout each other.
Yeah, like it was really fun kind of going through some of that original material and like really seeing what we saw, like frame by frame.
Right.
Like how Cooper blips out of that White Lodge at the beginning with the giant in a really interesting way.
What was some of the difficulties for you for this?
Yeah, like just matching all of it up. Like this light here actually with Senorita Dido, getting her to kind of match this spotlight. And then just getting, again, Annie's hair as good as we could get it, and then trying to come up with creative ways to, once we kind of had the idea of adding in like that wizard, all-powerful Oz type smoke effect, stuff like this, like phasing her in and out, like she's there, but it takes her, her power isn't really strong enough to keep her there.
But it's the little details, because folks, when you're going from shot to shot, and this is one thing I was like on you about a little bit, because like every time it's shot to shot, I was like, we got to make sure the smoke matches from shot to shot, because sometimes the smoke wouldn't be there, sometimes it'd be higher or lower from where it is. And so it was about like, if it's rising up, then when it cuts to Freddy, it still has to be rising up.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just those details that like a lot of people just don't, you take them for granted. But it's like when you see it, your eyes will know immediately, like that doesn't sit right. That doesn't look right. I'm glad this scene honestly is like on the short side, but at the same time though, like I would have loved to, like, knowing that we could do this, it would be great to like experiment and see like what we could do with a longer version of the scene. But I love when the smoke from the top and the bottom within each other like that. That's beautiful.
Like little things like, is this this is her little like spark, like just
right.
That's what she turns into to like teleport from one place to another. Is just like
it's Wonka vision.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh, that I just love this little bit. Like whoever you got to play Dido, it just looked the part perfectly.
I gotta tell you, like I thought that because we had one actress who ended up not being able to do it, and so this actress Nada, she was going to be another part of the film, and I said, hey, how would you like to have an extra part? And she goes, great. And honestly, I just thought, okay, she's going to look good in black and white, we can put her in the dress and that'll be great. When her makeup artist brought her out and goes, what do you think? I literally almost passed out.
I can only imagine.
I was like, oh my God, like I did not expect what they did. So originally we cut to, so the whole scene, all the diner stuff was originally supposed to be in color in the diner. Again, we did a background replacement, so we ended up having to change that. But because we knew we're going to cut to the firemen watching in black and white, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to begin it in black and white and have people go, what are we doing in black and white? What, where are we? What's the timeline? What's going on here? And then have, when Annie says the real world, then blow it out into color, fade it in, and then cut back to the black and white. And then we realized, oh, the fireman's been watching this the whole time.
Yeah. So this was all a lot of this was provided to us from Maya, who built a very realistic 3D model of the entire Double R diner. So like all this material here, this glass, what's across the street.
Right. And another reason why we did it in black and white here, not only to match it up with the firemen, but also, again, Maddie's hair. It's so hard to get those strands with the background replacement. But in black and white, it looks like she's still kind of it's the new timeline forming, you know? So,
Yep.
right.
Yeah. Now when I watch Marvel movies and you see like Captain Marvel's like her hair's always pulled back in a ponytail, or she has short hair all of a sudden, and it's like, oh, it's because they can rotoscope out their hair easy.
Right. Right.
It's totally why.
But again, like if we knew we were going to shoot it this or have it be this way, we would have shot it differently.
Yeah. Or Annie, somehow we would have had to shave her head, which could have worked story-wise.
That was never going to happen. All right.
Yeah, and actually, like, so like this jukebox here is real. Like this was filmed. This table was filmed. These straws.
Right.
This, and then the rest of this all is, you know, this 3D set. Who Maya in whatever program she used to create this, like went through and lined shots up for us and like got perfect screenshots.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm so happy with it. Because honestly, I mean, what we had in the background, it was fine, you know, but it's much cooler now.
It definitely feels more like the double R that we know and love.
Well, yeah.
You know, these shots came out.
Especially with the two phones behind him, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Also, I love Major Briggs. Like, everyone loves Major Briggs.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, like, the music, like, the score is also what helps build that.
Well, you feel like you're back in Twin Peaks. I mean,
yeah.
And in fact, the guy who does the Cream Corn podcast, he said, oh, you know, I thought Maddie was doing her own thing as Annie through the whole film. And then when he saw these scenes, he was realizing, oh, no, that's just Annie after the Black Lodge. Like, because Maddie completely nails the Heather Graham Annie here. Like,
Yep.
Like, all, you know, word for word, it's like the tone is correct.
And so does Cooper. I mean,
oh yeah, he's great in there. It took a long time on your part, but I got to thank you for this, because it's like, I mean, is it, looking back, it's worth it because it just looks so cool.
I mean, it feels way more like Twin Peaks, and it was actually kind of fun to do in a weird way.
It was. It
took
was
a long
hard.
time, but
it was hard though. Come on.
Yeah.
I remember you messaging me going, "It's never going to be perfect." I was like, I know, but we just got to get a couple frames in.
Yeah.
So on some of the cuts, there would be like there would be like sometimes a body part of them would like disappear for like a frame. So what I ended up doing was before every cut, I would take the last 1 or 2 frames of the previous shot and reduce the speed of it by 50%, so that, you know, it would bleed over and you wouldn't see that.
Yeah, they're still working on making that algorithm as good as it can be.
Right.
It'll change things once it gets even better. It's already pretty good, but
I love just the giant watching Wyndham Earl getting arrested.
Well, what was funny about this was actually during season 3, I made a never-ending loop of the giant watching James sing with the girls just looking at him. And then when you were like, oh, can we put this inside there? I was like, I already know how to do that.
Perfect. Right. So originally, you know, in the script, it was just like it was the diner scene, the way the diner scene was. But again, with the background replacement and things like that, it was sometimes a little iffy. And I didn't want to go diner, back to the firemen, diner, back to the firemen. I thought, wouldn't it be cool just to have one long shot and just have it slowly, you know, move in with the giant watching the scene. So it's like we're watching the scene, but we're also watching the giant watch the scene. And it's like, again, it's a comment on the whole television aspect that Twin Peaks always has.
He has his own movie theater, so we should use it.
Yeah. And also it ties, I mean, Annie is, you know, working with the White Lodge. So it really ties her into him kind of like overseeing her as an agent.
Yeah, I thought this stuff was I thought that as much work as I put into this ties, it's like Lebowski's did. It ties the whole thing together and just makes it way more interesting than even if it was just the scene playing out.
I was so happy with the scene playing out, but I was just like, you know, obviously you can tell all the background stuff looks beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, And also just having the little static on the screen. It's like, this is how I used to watch Twin Peaks.
Right. Exactly. And like, for all we know, the giant's sitting here being like, do I upgrade to that 4K projector or do I stick with my standard def 4x3 projector?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because like the giant uses Laserdisc, let's be honest.
Yeah. The neighbors to Norma's house had their lights on. So when the lights went out, we had to like take that out, and the doorbell had a light that didn't go out. So now we did pull the electricity out from the house.
Yeah.
So that was there, but the doorbell and the neighbors' lights did not go out.
In the original footage, it's kind of like reminded me of when you watch like the original Darth Vader sound, and you just hear like a muffled British guy in a mask. Mm-hmm. Like all the lights would come out, and you had the sound effects and stuff there, but then like 6 lights were still on. And it was just like, okay, well, obviously we're going to take those out.
But it was also about getting the timing of one and the neighbors' lights go out at the same time.
Kind of like, it's like the grizz, like it's slowly rippling.
It's rippling through town. So this was like here, like there was like a couple little lights in the background that you would just take out. And that was a lot of this, honestly. These were shots that I shot in Washington. Like here we have Annie walking by Donna's house.
Yeah. Like this was a day for night shot.
This was a day for night shot here. Because how can you tell? Because if it's in total clarity, it wasn't shot at nighttime.
Yeah.
Because nighttime, you obviously the lower the light, like for instance with Annie here, there's a little bit more graininess.
Yeah, you don't get shadows at night.
No. So
this was a hard shot to do.
So talk about. So this was shot. This was she's actually walking in this location, but there were a lot
these are
of
all
little.
lit up.
Those were lit up. Yeah, there were lots of little lights.
Yeah. There were tons of little lights back here.
Right.
Because it is, a working town,
right.
The sign, there was like a little light back here. So, we did what we could to really just bring as much of it down. Like, I don't think the Black Lodge could eliminate generators. So, some light would be.
Well, no. And I didn't want it completely pitch black because otherwise you wouldn't see anything.
Exactly.
But it was just the feeling that it's dark out there.
But I always loved like this sign here is the real sign. It says North Bend, where because it's like I'm up in Bend, Oregon. Like
Well, even in the in season 3 when they're driving in Cooper and Laura or Carrie and Richard or whatever, they do have the real signs showing. Yeah, she doesn't know what's going on, but she feels like she's in control of the situation.
Right. Which is, usually you see, a girl running through the woods at night or, walking through a darkened town. She's not scared.
No, not at all.
I don't know what you did to like match. This is so good. Like when I saw this for in its full, original footage, I was just like, it's so like the framing. It just reminds me so much of that part of that episode, which I don't think when we all watched that episode for the first time, we knew where we would end up at the end of that hour. You know what I mean? Just like I didn't, at least. And to just see it come over to here is so fascinating.
Well, because in the show, you see Carrie, you see Cooper, but they're not in the same frame.
Yeah.
And here it's from Annie's point of view. She would see them together.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's had relationships with Cooper and Laura, they would know who she was. She's visited them both as kids.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that they both turn, they're like, what do you do? It's almost like they were in one show.
Yeah.
And she's come over and they're like, what is this crossover is happening here?
Right. So this is a lot, there were lights in the background here that we cleaned up.
With the exception of the Black Lodge and the diner, I would say that, and this was always meant to be the most effects part of. And I'll pause there for a second. So that shot of the Palmer house, that is not from the show. That is my footage. That it was shot day for night, and we put it in there. So No, we did not shoot this directly in front of the Palmer house, as awesome as that would have been. But at the same time, is I did get all these shots. So
Yeah.
like this, I knew that when Annie looked, she was going to see this shot. So, everything was shot. But at the same time, though, we did shoot it on a street that matches the Palmer street. So
yeah, it's awesome. Like I wouldn't tell these two locations between here are hundreds of miles apart, if not.
Oh yeah. Well, one's Monterey, California, and one's Everett, Washington. So but at the same time, it's like, I mean, it completely matches. So the only change from the ending of this of what my shots were going to be and what we ended up doing is that the last shot was going to be the three of them. Pause for a second. The three of them with their backs to us, looking up at the Palmer house, with Carrie's light going up towards the house, with Alice Treatment on the porch, with the woodsman surrounding, and they were going to take a step forward towards the house, and that was going to be the end. But again, we weren't in front of the Palmer house for that, so we ended up I just took it from a side angle, and I think it works fine anyway. But that's the only change from the ending, the original concept of the ending, to what we ended up doing. And we actually did experiment with the idea of doing a little something like that. And it wasn't working. So
so like here we took little lights and stuff out here.
We darkened the actress. We kind of darkened Alice Treatment up, so you couldn't tell if it was or wasn't Mary Reaper. But that was the whole point, was to kind of create her shroud in darkness. Here's a couple of the woodsmen. Now, originally in the script, we were going to have a bit more woodsmen like surrounding them, but that was only because we were going to be able to do a long shot of. Here, pause for a second. We were going to be able to do a long shot of the Palmer house, and you would see the woodsmen kind of folding out. But because we didn't shoot at the Palmer house, we couldn't do that. So I basically had to do some cutaways to the woodsman there. It works. It's fine. I think, again, it totally works. But the original concept was that you'd see the Palmer house and the woodsman would be like folding out. All right. So this thing, I wanted to kind of have a Sam Raimi. But Sam Raimi Evil Dead style mixed with the hallway shot we see in season 3 when the camera's zooming down the hallway when you see the Hayward sister with the boyfriend. All right, so talk about this. So
this was fun.
How'd you do this?
So Cameron did film 2 different shots, and we composited those together. One where she basically pulls off a white mask, and then one where she just mimics that movement. In between those 2 different takes,
so we had her doing this. So you had a reference.
See here, basically take I took a still frame of her face when her hand wasn't covering it and just morphed that as she pulls it away. We just pushed through as much light as we could.
Right.
Through there. Luckily, we did not hurt the actress when doing this.
No, I think she was very happy when she saw these shots, because when I was telling her what we were going to be doing post-production wise, she's like, really? This is and
you got to have trust that it's going to look that way when, or if not, you just.
Right. So again, we're getting the reflection of the light being bright on the screen to show that, Carrie's face is brightening up the area.
Yeah. And I always like this bit here where, Laura's light is cleaning almost.
Well, not only that, but it was also about getting the right sort of oval shape, the right halo, because it couldn't touch Annie and Cooper, but I wanted to just be right at the
right there,
right at the edges of them. All right, so let's talk about the Frog Moth.
Oh, that was fun.
So it was in the script, and I said, Ben, while we were shooting and stuff like that, I said, start working on how we're going to animate this Frog Moth.
So basically, this is. I think we built this out of. I just went through images of frogs and moths and found some frog legs.
So you didn't. So there's original images of the Frog Moth that I sent you. You didn't end up using any of those.
I used those to plan it, but I didn't want to just borrow their Frog Moth. So it's close, but yeah, like I found like some butterfly moth type wings, and then just took all those parts, photoshopped it all together, animated it. I'm still a little not confused, but I can't tell who's the symbiote, who's being
Well, the
controlled.
idea to me for this is basically it's the kitchen sink ending. It's basically the trio, the Trinity, up against the forces of darkness. It has
Yep.
it has less to do with Alice Treeman
Yeah.
as being Judy or something like that. It has to do with the fact that Alice Treeman is part of the Treemans, which is part of the Black Lodge, which is
Yep.
part of the upcoming battle of good versus evil. We're just because they had just encountered her, that's why she's being used as a character. And then having the Frog Moth there, Laura taking her face off. It's basically like what I always wanted to see in Twin Peaks, which was the battle is about to begin. And also I wanted to bring again the trio together as one.
I always thought, like when I was watching season 3, that basically the battle was going to be like the citizens of Twin Peaks with golden shovels fighting against some sort of like reanimated monster horde or something coming out of the Black Lodge. And this is like kind of similar to that idea where like our armies are starting to line up. And
well, I always thought Freddy with his green glove were going to be crushing the skulls of the woodsmen, because
I always thought like green glove plus the shovel with the gold on it would be like Excalibur, or something like that. And I feel like this gets us one step closer to that.
That's what I'm saying. It's just, it's not so much I know some people have thought of it as a cliffhanger ending. I never did. I always took it as like it just brings the whole film emotionally together and just takes us 5 more minutes down the road. And having Freddie overseeing this scene and Annie being a part of the White Lodge. I mean, to me, it's like Cooper was unsure about what's going on. Carrie is unsure what's going on. But when they both see Annie, it's almost like when she walks up to them and then they all acknowledge her and then they all turn in unison. It's almost like she's downloaded what's going on and they go, oh, I get it.
Yep. And things like that tend to work in threes. You know what I mean? Just like if 3 people kind of agree on a path, you're going to feel a lot better than just 1 or 2.
Right.
So by having her show up here gives Cooper and Laura a little oomph.
Well, not only that, but by having Cooper and Annie on either side with Laura in the middle, it completely, is Laura is the one.
Yeah.
But people have to go through Cooper and Annie to get to her.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So anyway, Ben, I'm telling you, like, there are certain people involved with this production that I certainly could not have made the film without their participation. But that was mostly on the production side. When it came time to post-production, with the exception of obviously the actors doing the ADR, it was just you and me.
Yeah.
And doing this. And I know if you had not contacted me and wanted to be a part of this project, this thing never would have happened, because I wasn't expecting so many effects in this film.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a lot more than what we both thought. But at the same time, though, I would have just been stupefied. I wouldn't know how to do half of this stuff. And you were just like, "Oh no, this is great. I'm going to do a challenge. This is great." And
yeah, I mean, I learned so much just trying to figure out how to pull some of these things off, and it was so much fun just trying to put my brain in that space to expand that world. And I'm glad. I know for me, like they're having more Twin Peaks is such a good thing. So to help more of it exist out there, and just seeing so many people that enjoy this and are almost taking it like a big part of the story, because it does fit in so well, is really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a miracle that it all came together. I knew obviously the script, we had something solid. I knew the actors we were getting were good. But again, you never know until you start putting it together and seeing how it comes out. And I was so happy with the way it was coming out. And then when the effects were being done, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is actually going to work. And after, this project got, poo-pooed by so many, at the same time was being praised by so many, it's so nice to have a film done that vindicates the whole process of independent creative filmmaking.
Yeah.
And at the same time, though, it's like, as Twin Peaks fans, like, to me, this is awesome. And this is what we always wanted it to be.
I remember, like, I started watching Twin Peaks. We barely had the internet at my house, and because it just wasn't a thing like it is now. And I remember running out of videotapes to buy and watch. And then someone was like, there's a movie. I was like, what are you talking about? And my local video store happened to have it. And I was like, this is great. And then I was like, is there more? And there wasn't, so you're, spend the next 25 years waiting. So now, for me at least, it's like maybe there's someone out there who, might be like 10 years old right now, and then they get into Twin Peaks, and then, when they're in high school, and then they finish season 3, and they're like, is there any more? And then it's like, there's 4 more hours. Okay, it wasn't made by David Lynch and Frost, but like, I heard people liked it, so I'm gonna check it out. And then there's more for them, and then maybe that will help them go, well, maybe I could make more myself, or I could go into filmmaking, or I could go into storytelling of some way, and keep telling more stories.
Well, one thing that we were always wanting, this film was always meant to be very extremely respectful to not only the world of Twin Peaks, but to Frost and Lynch and everyone that was involved with the show. And I feel like we were successful in that. I feel like this thing obviously doesn't feel like David Lynch and Mark Frost made it, but it fits so comfortably into the world that I don't think anybody who truly loves Twin Peaks could watch this film and not feel something.
Right. And not feel like they just slapped a label on something and there wasn't thought behind. I mean, there's reasoning and thoughts behind every moment in this movie to, help tell the story, but at the same time, like, make it feel like that world. And for people who enjoy living in that world or experiencing it, it was a lot of fun to work on and help create. So
yeah. So while technically it is a fan-made project, I do feel like we did make a Twin Peaks film. So,
oh yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. More people wrote Sherlock Holmes stories in the early 1900s than at any other time. And people, people like it, and I hope people keep watching it. Like, it has quite a few views on YouTube, and I'm just excited for more people to find it. I think it's gonna be one of those things where people, it's been 5 or 6 years now since season 3, so people are gonna start finding Twin Peaks again who weren't watching it then, and then they'll have more to watch.
Well, that's what we'd always talked about, was we're playing the long game here. What are people going to say 5 years, 10 years from now? It's nice too that the film kind of is a giant missing piece of the whole saga, and it connects not only the show with the movie, but also with the books, and it shows you that it doesn't have to be separate worlds or separate timelines. It can coexist.
Just because someone didn't put a stamp on it doesn't mean you can't enjoy it, and I thoroughly enjoyed working on this project, and I hope a lot of people enjoy watching it. And for everyone who worked on it, it was a labor of love. We made this so that people can watch it,
and I think people feel that because if you read the comments on all the videos, it's just nothing but love for it.
Yeah. So thank you for taking me up on that, and I had so much fun working on it.
Well, thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for sticking with me through all the ups and downs and turnarounds, and I mean, at least on your end, you could just kind of go about your life and just wait while the film was going on. But until the film.
But hey, like, we made it through a pandemic, we can make it through anything. So
absolutely. So I completely look forward to working with you again, and thank you again for so much for everything. And this project could not fully exist without your help, so I appreciate that.
If you have any questions or want to know how something was done, leave a comment, and I will leave a little message and get back to you on that. Happy to share things like that.
Wait, what did that one reviewer say that that they hadn't seen these effects were better than the Scorpion King or something?
Yes, which in life is all I've ever wanted. So thank you. I have that on my resume now. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, take it easy. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.
Yeah,
Take care.
have a good
Bye.
one. Take care.